Hi, and welcome to this one review of Platz's 1/72nd scale F-15J Eagle with the multi-stage improvement program add-ons. Let's start with the F-15J. Is very similar to an F-15C. The differences between the two are very subtle. The only way you can tell the difference usually is on the tail fin tips. The F-15J, they're identical. On an F-15C, they're different on the top of each fin. Like most modern aircraft, they've been continually updated and upgraded as the years have passed. A lot of the time the upgrades are purely internal and you'd never know that something had changed. For the multi-stage improvement program, that's sort of followed the same thing. As it says, it's multi-stage, so things have been added to aircraft over the years. For an aircraft that has the multi-stage improvement program Type 1 or Type 2, or Configuration 1, Configuration 2 as they're called, there are some differences on the outside. There's a new lump on the top of the nose and a couple of lumps on either side of the air intakes, and those are included in this kit. So let's have a look, see what's inside the box. Hi, so let's have a look, see what we have inside the box. So, box art is pretty neat. A couple of photographs on the side and some basic information. On the other side, some other items that Platz have produced. So there's nothing on the bottom. So let's open up the box. Inside we have instructions and one bag of parts and one decal sheet. So, instructions, standard sort of layout for Platz. One sheet of paper, folded a few times. Instructions look pretty good, pretty clear, straightforward, as always. On the back we've got, 2.5 sheets for decal placement and the layout of the sprues. Can't see any that are grayed out right now, so it looks like you use everything that's in the kit. And these instructions, as always, pretty well laid out, nice and clear. Paints called out where needed. Let's have a look, see. Paints called out in Mr. Colour and Model Master. They're all listed on the back here as well. And you can see the numbers appearing all over the place when you need to paint things in advance. So those look nice and good. So, I'll be back in a second when I've got the bag undone. So, back again. The main bag is one of those nice self-sealing bags, so when I'm done I'll be able to put the pieces back in the bag and just seal the bag straight up again. Inside that bag, the clear parts are inside their own resealable bag inside, and they look nice and clear, very clear in fact, nice and thin. So those are excellent. Decal sheet. As always with Platz, it's comprehensive to say the least. So one thing I found with Platz is every single stencil is on there, and I have to put aside 2 or 3 nights to actually get all the stencils down, everything down. So that'll keep me busy for a while, but yeah, they're done by cartograph, and those will be pretty good. They always are, everything by cartograph, and Platz really go to town on the details on those. So let's look at the sprues themselves. Start with the small ones, since at the top looks like part of a missile. So that's sprue H, a nice small one. And then sprue, which one was this? E, missiles. Nice and detailed. The fins are, pretty thin. That's not excessively thin. Obviously photo etch is better, but those are good. And now sprue, which one's this? C. So this looks like part of the cockpit. Some nice detail on here, and on here is a texture on there as well. So the nose cone obviously looks like it's sort of moved over to the side a bit, but it's stayed connected, which is good. And then we have two of these, and that is sprue K over here on this end, and sprue D is this bit. Let's do it the right way around. This D with fuel tanks, compressor blades for the engine, missile rails, petals for the exhaust. So basically it looks like a bit sort of stuff for one engine plus some fuel tanks. That's a duplicate of the last one. Now we get the air intakes, undercarriage bay detail there. See some nice recessed panel lines here. There's some very nice detail on that with the grills done in plastic. Nice recessed panel lines. A lot of fairly subtle detail on these. See if there's anything on this side. Some detail in there as well. So some nice subtle details in there. Now basically the main parts, top and bottom, and top parts of the wings. If you can see there's some nice detail in there. Okay, so let's have a look at the instructions and a closer look at some of the parts to see the level of detail we're working with. So just as an overview, this kit is almost identical to Platz's earlier F15J. It contains all the same sprues, except in this box there's an extra small sprue H which contains some extra parts to allow you to make either a configuration 1 aircraft or a configuration 2 aircraft, and that's part of the multi-stage improvement program. If you don't use sprue H, then you can make an aircraft prior to the multi-stage improvement program. Okay, so the front page of the decals is the usual stuff, just a brief introduction to the aircraft and the multi-stage improvement program and the usual warnings. So the first page of the build itself starts off as usual with the cockpit. You have a choice of using decals for the instruments or painting them yourself. There's some nice detail in here, colour call-outs as needed. Then moves on to stage 2, which is basically putting the sidewalls of the cockpit together. Again, some more nice detail added. The first of the new parts is added here, H1 and H4. Those are used if you're doing a configuration 1 of the multi-stage improvement program. And there's a note to add at least 3 grams of weight to the nose cone before you fit it. And then at the bottom of this page, step 3 is putting together the air intakes. There's some nice detail on the compressor blades and inside, but you'll probably never see it unless you've got a torch up there. And then basically you put the top and bottom halves of the fuselage together. And on the next page we add the sides of the fuselage to the main piece we've already made. We box in the main undercarriage bays, and then moving down we are adding the nose onto the main piece of the fuselage we've done. We do the air intakes. We fit the canopy, where you can have the canopy open or closed. There's also a choice of angle of air intake if you wish. What you can also do is add on, there's a couple of little bulges that get added to the outside of the air intakes parts, part H6 on the port. Even though it doesn't actually show part H5 fitted on the starboard side, it does. That's where it does goes, and there's a photograph in the video that shows it. On the next page we put together the exhaust, and there's basically 5 petals per engine, and plus some other parts gone as well. Here you also have some choices to make if you're building a Type 1 or Type 2 multi-stage improvement program aircraft. You use different parts, and if you use parts C, 23 and 24, they're the same for an aircraft that's prior to the multi-stage as well. And then moving down, we basically put the wings together, put those on, put the tail on, put the big parts on. and it shows fitting aerials and missiles, although we'll probably put those on a little bit later on actually. And now we're on the last page of actually putting things together. Start off with the undercarriage. You've got a choice obviously of undercarriage up or down. The undercarriage itself is nicely detailed, and then moving down to the bottom we add the external fuel tanks and some smaller missiles, and basically we're done. And finally we move on to painting and decals. There's one paint scheme which is used by all the aircraft. Paints are called out in Mr. Colour and Model Master. You have one set of decals for a Type 1 configuration, and you have 5 aircraft of the Type 2 configuration. There's lots of stencils on the decal sheet. One thing about Platz is they don't cut corners on the stencils. If it's on the aircraft, it's on the decal sheet. And there we are, finished. So, an overall conclusion. Looking at the parts in the box, it's very nicely detailed, subtle panel lines, should fit together well. Platz do very nice kits. Decal sheet has lots of detail on it. All in all, should be a good kit.